Sometimes I'm a slow learner. This camera only goes 29 minutes 50 seconds. Again, we'll devote the entire chapter Ignorance of Art. I call it $2 million worth of masonry, with cover up $2 million worth of masonry with $5,000 worth of bad evis, which, by the way, this, well, I'll leave that for later, which has happened here to some of the greatest Art Deco buildings in the world. Leslie Hodson, including my great grand house, turned into a Orwellian piece of shit by morons. Anyway, before I get too angry and snap, back to my story. I was fueling up the Biscuit, 1992 Buick. I still have it. And I saw this cat with a bumper sticker that said, "Bush lied, soldiers died." I was still very raw from the tragic death of my Marine father, Blanch, an atomic veteran. Again, a whole chapter, Atomic Veterans. I said to the young man, "Where did you get the bumper sticker? I want one." He said, "I made it. I made them yesterday. Here, have one or two." I put it on the Biscuit right here, right now. Another of my favorite lines. I love Van Halen, all of it. So off I went. Within hours, I was in my first fight over the sticker. Within a few hours, I had 3 fights. I wore my dad's dog tags after his death for a long time. This says, "One day at my time." My daughters gave me this when I got leukemia. His dog tags right there, I've wore them out. I had to take them off before I was afraid I was going to lose them. I would pull them out when punks started their "you are an anti-American" bullshit. You have to remember, I was a plasterer and an athlete for decades in extremely good shape with a whole bunch of anger. What was Mark Twain's great quote? "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." Well, let me tell you, the size of the fight in this dog in the early 2000s for me was gigantic. I had lost my true one love to my own cousin. I had lost my true best friend to ignorance, my father. And I'll tell you what, some of the best frescoes I did, some of the best paint and the best art I did was in that angry period. And you're going to say, "Oh, I thought your angry period was now after Fukushima." Oh no, it was worse. I had lost my giant environmental art house that I had spent 10 years building in cash. I had lost almost everything. The day they took my last truck, I had $3,000 in cash in my pocket. My high school friend was the sheriff, Mia, in charge of taking it for me. He finally stopped me at the same truck stop. I found that cat with the bumper sticker, that great sticker. He took it at gunpoint. I threw the keys at him and said to him, "Are you fucking real? Pull a gun on me?" That is the world we live in. He tried to apologize later. I told him to go fuck himself. He took the truck, I started walking up the road and the cop pulled up to me and asked me if he could give me a ride. He was feeling a little remorse. I told him I would walk 100 miles again. Go fuck yourself. As I was walking, I spotted the Biscuit for sale. I rang the bell. An older man came out. I told him, "See that tow truck? That is my truck. They're taking it from me," and proceeded to tell him my story. He said he wanted $3,000 for the car. It was in perfect condition. I told him I had exactly $3,000 on me, but I needed gas money and a case of Guinness. He said, "I will tell you what, you give me $2,800 and take the car, meet me at the VFW in 1 hour and I will buy you a case of Guinness." So I did, gave him the money, and met him at the VFW. Took the bus. Mr. Valentine, right next to the Ogden Stadium on 17th Street, was his name. He was an incredible, incredible man. A Hell's Kitchen, freaking Korea. This guy was decorated up once, you know, and he would never, oh, he was so, I loved that guy. Me and I became very good friends that day. He just passed away last year. He was a Hell's Kitchen guy. He loved my sticker. I showed it to him one day. He and I talked a lot over the next few years. He knew all about my father and his death. He was an incredible, intelligent man. He was a very decorated Korean War veteran who hated war like all that have ever seen combat hated war. One morning I was driving the Biscuit to Wendover, 160 miles away from my house, where I love to bet football and horses. We all spend the weekends out there partying, you know, a lot of Utahns do. It's a fun place. Still do to this day. It was a Sunday morning, and like every Sunday morning in the fall, I leave early to get my bets in before the first games at 11 Mountain Time. It is over a 1 hour drive, or over a 2 hour drive, and I need time to fill up my beds, and have some breakfast, so the freeway is empty at 8 a.m. On a Sunday morning, I was driving along, singing to the radio, like I'm always singing to the radio. I'm a huge music lover. I even remember the song was playing, one of my favorite, all-time favorites, Don't Come Around Here No More. Tom Petty with the work of Dave Stewart of the Rhythmics. Then a red light was in the window of a plainclothes cop, a young cop. He pulled me over. He came up to the window and said, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I said no, but I knew. Here it comes. I'm thinking to myself, this could get ugly real fast. I put my hand on my cell phone and punched my attorney's cell number. Thank God I had it. And he said, "I don't like your bumper sticker." I said, "Oh, that's right. Last I checked, this was still America." He said, "I'm a Marine, get out." I said, "Oh, I'm getting out." In the old 1992 Biscuit, Buick, the Biscuit named after Seabiscuit, everyone assumed that you were a little old man. I got accused of buying that car for that reason, so I never got pulled over, which, by the way, it's the only time I ever got pulled over, because everybody did think I was an old man. In 2004, I'm only 5'7", but I am no old man. I am broad in the shoulders from all those years with that hock full of plaster in my hand. I had been a plaster at the time for 27 years. I then, and still now, can do well over 100 non-stop push-ups. I don't think so now, after the chemo. I was in very good shape at the time. I got out very aggressively. I knew he was surprised and thought I was a little old man. His eyes got big. He knew it was on. I pulled my father's dog tags out and said, "This is a dead Marine, motherfucker. Who is your commanding officer?" He stepped back and put his hand on his gun. I said, "Listen, punk motherfucker, lay the gun down. There is no one out here, and let's do it right here. Me and fucking you. Let's do it. Right here, right now." I was so full of anger and adrenaline, he knew it. He said, "I'm going to call backup." I said, "Good." He stepped back and told me to get in the car. I did not move 1 inch. Finally, here he came, 2 highway patrolmen. One walked up to me and asked me what was going on. I told him the story in a very calm tone. He said, "I'm very good at moving emotions. I can get so angry, you know, just like I could turn it off in seconds. That's why I'm such a good derivative trader. I can control emotions. I really have a master at it. I've always been a master at it." He said, "Let me see those tags." He was a very large older officer. He walked back. You could see words between him and the young cop. He walked back to me and said, "Mr. Blanch, I would like to apologize for this unfortunate incident. You are free to go on your way." I was a Marine, he went on to say, "I was a Marine for over 20 years. I said, Semper Fi for my father. My father was as Semper Fi as it gets. When he died, he refused morphine and said nothing to the effects of his mission in the desert. He left us safe." And his uncle, his younger brother that was at the Pentagon, the great colonel, I call him, Claude, he's the one who exposed all this way, way back. And I've been fighting these guys since the early 90s. And this is a good spot for me to say that people like Carol Gallagher and Leonard Byrd and Richard Miller and John Goffman, I love you guys. You guys have done all the hard work. You guys are the ones that woke me up. I love you guys, and I think I for one, muchly appreciate you. And Carol Gallagher, I go to her Facebook, and you know, she is an incredible woman. He replied with Semper Fi, God bless your father. I got back in my car and was so emotional. I had tears running down my face, which never happens to me. Well, it did until I got cancer. When the older Marine said, God bless your father, it meant so much to me and still does. The next day I went to the Marine recruiter's office in our town and got a Semper Fi bumper sticker. It's still on the biscuit to this day. I, after about 200 fights, took the Bush lied, soldiers died sticker off and threw it away. I remember thinking if I keep running with all this anger and the said sticker, I will rot from the inside. I didn't know it was going to be plutonium rot me from the inside. I always think in my mind of the yellow ribbon stickers that somehow people in this country can use as justify. This country can justify anything with the smallest of in denial tools, like a yellow ribbon on their car. It makes me sick. It's always made me sick. I can't stand it. Every time I think of my father being loaded in the body bag, or read of a young or older soldier being killed, he dies with his mind on fire, the young man, like my father. The body of a 20-year-old, my father, like them young men. I get emotionally sick, literally sick to my stomach. I think of the man in Layton on Antelope Drive, who right after we went in, put up a billboard on his lawn and would put on the faces and the names of the killed soldiers in the two wars. It grew and grew. I did a lot of work in Layton in the area. One day it was gone. I have been going to stop and ask what happened. But it has been 9 years. Maybe he passed away or moved or was forced to take it down. 9 years. 9 fucking years. I think of Steinbeck's great metaphor a lot these days. When Lee said at the death of one of the twins, Timshel, the Hebrew word for thou mayest. This is not Timshel. These were not the decisions made on individuals, not my father. There were no choices, not the entire country. This is a crime, and we are the victims, all of us, and our unborn children, and our grandchildren, but mostly to the ones who died in the name of these wrongs. I pray for them all every day, and do my best to try to live as they would live, fearless with them all every day, and do my best to try to live as they would live, fearless with courage and strength. These are crimes set in motion by a blowjob from a chubby chick. All this is real, very real, and death by neo-ignorance, and the neo-ignorant support of this in any fashion are much more than a crime. It is in the true ultimate ignorant support of any fashion are much more than crime. It is the ultimate sin. No matter what God you pray to, denial may work for the courts of the United States, but if there is a just God of any sort, which I have no clue whether there is or is not, and would never claim to know anything about any God, take your denial, yellow ribbon justification to Him. He will give you the answer, and I do not believe you will like the result. Not one single person who supported any of this madness, not one. I always think of the great quote, and have my entire life, the moral arc of justice is long, but it bends towards justice. Martin Luther King. I truly believe in that great line. I do believe the arc is long, very long, sometimes, but justice is a state of peaceful mind. And I despise this unjust war, and everything, wars, and everyone who supported it. I do have a small, peaceful mind, but all the pain of the death of my father and all the others will never leave me, never. The cause, ignorance. The effect, death, hate, debt, pain, poverty. The results, death, destruction, pain, poverty. More neo-ignorance. Chapter 5, Shift F13.